A 17-year-old bully grabbed his fellow student's hair and started pulling it. Due to the pain the student felt, he stood up from his chair while the bully was telling him to cut his hair. The student's name was Hwan Chomin, a 17-year-old student at Yongle High School, and the bully's name was Han Chang-hee. Chomin couldn't stand him, so he slapped Chang-hee's hand off his hair, and Chang-hee slapped Chomin on the cheek. Chomin didn't fight back, but when Chang-hee was about to slap him again, he grabbed his hand, glaring at Chang-hee. He thought that if he pushed himself towards Chang-hee and clenched his fist, he might have a chance of winning. However, Chomin was scared that if he took a wrong step, he would get hit by a truck. Before Chomin could do anything, Kang Seok-soo punched him, sending him flying into the wall. Then Seok-soo asked Chomin if he was a bully. A group of First Division students surrounded him, and then Chang-hee walked towards Chomin and slapped him while asking why he grabbed his hand. Chomin kept his mouth shut until they left him. Chomin's friend at the school, Min-guk, banged his fist on the table, screaming that he couldn't stay still anymore. Chomin blocked his friend's mouth with his hand, telling him to shut up. Min-guk told Chomin that he hoped Chang-hee got hit by a car. Chomin replied that there was nothing they could do because the first Cubs were backing him up. Min-guk told Chomin that he had started kickboxing and that he was going to start a revolution. Chomin asked him if he was in shape. Then Guk asked him to talk to his brother since he was also a bully. Chomin remembered how his brother had treated him when he asked him to do something about a student who used to beat him. He told Min-guk that it had been 3 years since they had lived separately, so he didn't know what his brother was doing now. Then his phone rang. After the call, he went to the mortuary because they had contacted him to go and identify a body. He saw that it was his brother. He asked the police officer how he died, and the officer replied that he was riding his bike at high speed and collided with a truck, dying on the spot. Chomin started making his way to the exit when the officer asked him about the body. He replied that he would give it up and exited the building. The officer ran after him and gave him a box, telling him that he at least deserved to have one belonging of his brother. He carried the box and walked away, sitting on a bench. He heard a phone ring from the box. He took it out and saw messages from the group chat, including one that talked about recruiting Seok-soo. Chomin replies to this message, saying that Kang Seok-soo is trash and deserves to be killed. He was still going through the messages when Han Chang-hee appeared from behind him, pulling his hair. Then he grabbed the box and emptied Hwang Mu-ji's staff while asking Chomin if someone was dead. Chomin got angry and beat up Chang-hee. Then Seok-soo came out of nowhere and pushed Chomin off Chang-hee. Chomin tried to run when he saw Seok-soo walking towards him. Suddenly, Jagang of the Imperial Division showed up on his motorcycle and hit Seok-soo on the head. Chomin asked why he had done that, and Jagang replied that he was the kind of person who deserved to be killed even more than twice. Chomin remembered the text he had written from his brother's phone. Then, all the Imperial Division members appeared, and they beat up Seok-soo while Chomin walked away. After a while, he checked a message from Mu-jae's phones saying that they had roughly beaten up Seok-soo. After beating up Seok-soo, one of the members asked Jagang if it was rare for the entire emperor to be called to take care of trash. He replied that it wasn't his first time getting riled up, and that he was just showing them what happens when one messes with their leader. At the high school cafe, Guk was telling Chomin about the high school fight scene. Chomin replied that he already knew about it and asked Min-guk if he knew about the Imperial Division. Guk told him that they were one of the strongest groups and that half of the high schools were influenced by them. Then Guk asked Chomin how he didn't know about the team and why he was suddenly asking. Chomin did not reply. Suddenly, a group of bullies threw plates at a boy in front of them and told him that he would make a great dishwasher. Chomin and Min-guk walked towards the boy and offered to help him. Chomin told the boy that he would lend him his t-shirt and asked him what his name was. The boy replied that his name was Kim Dae-seol. The bullies saw them helping Dae-seol. When they were done helping with the dishes, they headed to class. The bullies from the cafe called them between two buildings and started beating them, asking who they were to do the dish work. One of the bullies named Kwon Do-eon told Chomin that he must be looking for a job. Min-guk got furious and punched Do-eon's friend. When the friend tried to punch him back, Min-guk punched the bully again, causing Chomin to gasp. Do-eon punched Min-guk and started beating him up. As he was about to burn him with a cigarette, Chomin told him to wait. Do-eon asked Chomin if he wanted to revolt too. Chomin knelt down, bending his back, and told him to sit on him and smoke. The bell rang, saving them. Do-eon told them that they were his exclusive chairs. The following day at school, Min-guk ran to Chomin's class and called him out to see. they saw Daesil sitting on Do-yeon's back. When his friend pushed Daesil off, Do-yeon got up and punched his friend, asking if he wanted to die. Then he knelt back down, telling Daesil to sit on him again. At 1 o'clock, Do-yeon started running around the schoolyard naked. Cho-min was on the rooftop, telling himself that the division was better than he had expected. Yonggil High School's general commander of the first team, Gu Minjo, told Do Gun-hoo that 20 people in the first division of the first grade had been beaten by the Emperor's division. Gun-hoo asked whether they should stick to the Union side. Minjo replied that he thought it was a targeted attack and that it might be a simple personal problem. Gun-hoo asked who the culprit was, and Minjo replied that it was likely a first-year student from Yonggil High. Meanwhile, a teacher was walking towards them and asked if they hadn't seen the no smoking sign. When he saw that they were not responding, he tried to snatch it from Gun-hoo's grasp, but Gun-hoo punched him and put a can of Monster Energy drink in his mouth, telling him to shut up. Then, Gun-hoo told Minjo that it was true that when you mess with the divisions, you get ruined, and it would be good to end it quietly within their line. He also told him to find the arrogant first year and bring him to him. Min-guk was in the hallways with Cho-min, and they were discussing how good it would be if there were no bullies. They went back to their classes, and Cho-min grabbed his brother's phone, texting the divisions that they had done a great job. Then a student walked into the class and told Cho-min that the homeroom teacher was calling him to his office for his weekly duty. As he was walking out of the class, a student grabbed him and told him to follow him. They were gathered in the auditorium, and Minjo was in front of them. He told them that he had gathered them to find the culprit of the recent attacks on first-year students, and that they had decided to start by asking the victims who had been bullied by Kwon Do-yeon, as he was the first to get beaten by the division. Then Gun-hoo told them that the culprit should step forward, or else they would experience a hell they had never experienced before. When no one stepped forward, Minjo told his friend to lock the doors. Cho-min started panicking. He reached into his pocket and took out his phone as they started looking into their phones. Before he could do anything, Minjo asked Cho-min what he was doing. Minjo asked Cho-min why he was playing around with his phone when he had specifically instructed them not to move. Cho-min replied that he needed to check something urgently. Minjo took his friend to check Cho-min's phone. When Cho-min refused to hand over his phone, Minjo was about to punch him when Daesil told them that he was the one who did it. He knelt on the ground, apologizing and explaining that he did it because he hated the bullies who were bullying him, which is why he asked the divisions to take action. While Cho-min was distracted by Daesil's confession, Minjo snatched his phone and saw that there were only commercial texts. The other guy checked Daesil's phone and found that there were no messages. Daesil replied that it was because he erased the conversation. Minjo told the other kids to leave. Cho-min went to the office, and the teacher gave him printed papers to put on the kids' desks. Meanwhile, Jagang saw that the leader had left the group, so he tried to send him an invite again. As Cho-min was walking out of the office, Min-guk asked him why he was dragged out of class by a second-year student. Cho-min asked how he heard about it, and Min-guk replied that he was well informed about gossip and rumors. Then Cho-min told him that Minjo had gathered him and some of the other kids in the auditorium. Min-guk asked Cho-min what he had done to be called by Minjo. Cho-min asked what kind of guy Minjo was, and Min-guk replied that he had killed someone in 8th grade because his sweat was smelling and he had spent 2 years in prison. Now he was coaxing Gun-hoo, the general commander of Yonggil High's first team, and dominating with his power. Cho-min realized that Daesil was in trouble, so he gave Min-guk the papers to put in place while he ran back to the auditorium's storeroom and found Daesil tied up. When he removed the tape from Daesil's mouth, Daesil told Cho-min that he was not supposed to be there. Cho-min asked him why he had lied earlier, and Daesil replied that by asking him why he had done it, Cho-min was accepting that he had done it. Cho-min asked how he knew, and Daesil explained that he went to the roof the day Do-yeon was running around naked and overheard him talking to himself, saying that the division was more than he expected. Then the bell rang. Cho-min finished untying Daesil, who told Cho-min that they would still catch him after school. Cho-min replied that it wouldn't work because he had ordered the divisions to kill Minjo. Meanwhile, Minjo was in class learning when all of a sudden the Emperor's division surrounded him. One of the members used a fire extinguisher to smack him in the head, and then all the members started beating him up. The students watched in horror while the teacher ran out of the classroom, calling the police to hurry up. In another class, the students heard the noise, so one asked his friend if something had happened. Gun-hoo smacked him on the head, asking why he was babbling so much. Meanwhile, Minjo was crying and begging for them to stop. When they were done beating him up, they took a picture to show their leader. Suddenly, Gun-Hoo entered the classroom and punched the guy. The division joined in, beating Gun-Hoo. Then they managed to pin him down. Gun-Hoo asked them who had made them do it. The guy who was pinning him replied that it was the only one who could move them, their leader. The police arrived with the paramedics, and they took Minjo to the hospital. Cho-min told Dae-seol that he locked the contractor, but it happened and Minjo's reasoning was wrong. If asked about it later, he should just lie. The members of the Emperor's division and Gun-Hoo were arrested. Guk told Cho-min that Gun-Hoo was held by the Imperial Division, but he eventually knocked them all out. When they were pushing him outside the building, the second and third graders were calling Gun-Hoo's name, asking him what happened. He replied that the division did a surprise attack, and it was all the work of the cowardly head of the Imperial Division, which led to Minjo's injury. The students yelled that the division was now their enemy. Determined to destroy Gun-Hoo's power, Cho-min texted Jagang. When Jagang saw the text, he asked himself why they were making him do so many fun things. One of the division's members, Park Suk-ha, was wondering what made Youngul Hai stand out. While walking in the streets, he took out his phone and dialed the leader's number. He passed Cho-min, who was heading the opposite way. When he heard the phone ring, he looked back at Cho-min and continued walking. The police released Gun-Hoo after telling him not to fight again. It was dark, and he was walking in the streets when he found himself surrounded by the division's members. Jagang told Gun-Hoo that he shouldn't be walking alone at night after declaring war. Gun-Hoo glared at him. Cho-min wore his work uniform as he was working at a store. He checked Mu-jae's phone and saw that Park Suk-ha had sent a message concerning the members who were arrested and asked if he had any ideas to minimize the loss of people. Cho-min sent a reply asking him when he started talking to him like that. Park Suk replied asking what he was talking about. Cho-min did not reply, so Park Suk told him that as the captain of the 1st Battalion, he could manage the number of people and help him make the right decision. Cho-min's colleague looked at his phone and asked him what game he was playing. Cho-min told him not to be too immersed. The following day, when Cho-min was heading to class, Gun-Hoo pushed him, saying he should get out of the way, and he landed on the floor. In the hallway, he heard Min-guk calling him. Min-guk asked him if he had been to class. They entered the classroom and saw a notice that said they should pay 100,000 won per person. Cho-min asked what they would be paying for. Min-guk replied that he thinks the Daejin Union had decided to manage the school. Cho-min asked what he meant by Daejin Union, and Min-guk replied that he had told him about the Imperials, so it must be the Daejin. Meanwhile, the Daejin and the Imperials were facing each other, with the intention of beating Gun-Hoo. But then Yoon-tak, a member of the Daejin, told them that Gun-Hoo was theirs. Park Suk-ha told his group that they should leave. Cho-min got angry at Park Suk-ha and told him that he would pay for it in a text. The Daejin members were beating up Cho-min, asking him to pay the money. He transferred the money, and the two men let him go. Cho-min was angry that he was being robbed by Daejin's men. He had tried to get rid of Gun-Hoo, but the second-in-command had stopped him, which was the reason why Gun-Hoo's army was doing this. While he was busy with his phone in the hallways, Gun-Hoo got the students' attention, saying he had something to talk about. He told one of his men to let the boys in. The students walked in the hallways only wearing their underwear, and Gun-Hoo told everyone that they were shameless people who tried to get a free ride. Cho-min saw his friend Min-guk in line, and he clenched his teeth. Gun-Hoo told them that if there was one time they would listen to him like a dog, they should watch out because next time it wouldn't end like this. That night, Cho-min went through Mu-jae's phone, looking for Suk-ha's information. Then he saw a picture of him and a blonde girl. Meanwhile, Park Suk went to pick up the girl from school. He found her bullying a red-haired girl. He caught her hand as she was about to slap her and told her that they should leave. While walking, he told her to keep her temper in check, and she replied that he said he liked her because she was sharp. Days later, when Cho-min and Min-guk were leaving school, Min-guk told Cho-min that he didn't want to go to school again. Cho-min replied by asking him where the revolutionary who said he would destroy everything was. Then on the streets, they saw Gun-Hoo and his men, and Cho-min asked Gun if he wanted to see something big. Suk-ha received a call that made him furious. Cho-min had used the information he found and made up a lie. Now Gun-Hoo tied Kang Jujin to a chair and asked her if she was Suk-ha's girlfriend. Before she could reply, Park Suk arrived and shot one of Gun-Hoo's men while Guk and Cho-min were watching. When Gun-Hoo was visiting Minjo at the hospital, he received a message that Park Suk was with Minjo's girlfriend. He got angry and sent people to bring the girl to him. Park Seok beat Gun-hoo up, but Gun-hoo managed to land a punch at Park Seok. Min-guk immediately assumed that Seok was going to lose and secretly pleaded for him to win. Gun-hoo kept throwing punches at Seok while asking if he was doing it all for love. Park Seok grabbed his hand and asked him what he was talking about. He flipped Gun-hoo and made him fall to the floor. Seok stomped on his face, and then he asked Gun-hoo what kind of dirty work he was made to do. Gun-hoo replied, while throwing a punch at Seok, that he didn't know. Seok dodged and started beating him up. Then he noticed that Gun-hoo passed out. He told Ju-Deun that they should get going. They saw a group of Youngul High's first team walking towards them. When Seok saw that his plan was working out, he told Gun-hoo that they should leave because it was going to get crowded. Seok asked the kids how they knew, and they told him that they contacted Jagang. Jagang and his group arrived and told the first team to leave it to him. Cho-min sent a message to the division that they should take over Youngul High School. The Imperial Division had beaten up the Youngul High first team. Jagang then told Seok that it was clearly a provocation meant to harm the executives. Seok knew that as long as Youngul High remained a member of the Union, they couldn't overlook it, or they would become a laughingstock. Seok told them that they would try to take Youngul out of the Union. Chomin and Guk were heading home when Guk asked him how he knew that Gun-hoo was going to get beaten. Chomin replied that he had ordered them to do it. A week later, the school was completely controlled by the division. Chomin was walking in the hallway when Chang-hee passed him, telling him not to get in his way. Meanwhile, a student was bullying Dae-seol. Do-yeon appeared and punched the bully, asking if he didn't know that the leader's eyes were everywhere. Then he hung his hand on Dae-seol's shoulder and begged him to let it slide since he was so kind. Cho-min watched all of it happen. Then, while he was in class, learning, Mahari called his brother's phone, disturbing the whole class. The teacher asked what it was, and he apologized. After class, Gun suggested that they watch a game broadcast, but Cho-min replied that he could not today. They separated and Cho-min sat on a bench right next to a fountain, wondering who Mahari was. Then he saw a text and realized that she was Mujae's girlfriend. Mahari appeared and asked him if he was the person Mujae sent. He replied that he was the one, and she gave him a gift bag. Before he could say that Mujae wanted them to break up, she told him that she knew Mujae was dead. He was surprised and asked her how she knew. She replied that she knew because she was the one who killed him. One of the Daejeon's members told Yoon-tak that the division had decided to take over the school under the pretext of Gun-hoo's case. He replied that he knew and he helped them because they had a good relationship in middle school. His phone rang, and the chief of staff told Yoon-tak that he heard about it and asked him if he thought he messed up by bringing Gun-hoo in. Yoon-tak replied that he thought Gun-hoo would help with their power because he was a great fighter. The chief of staff told Yoon-tak to find the true reason why Wika beat up Youngul High, and he would make sure to report it nicely to the president. Cho-min asked Mahari what she meant when she said she killed Mujae. She replied that she used a truck driver who was going to end his life. She told him where Mujae would be alone to kill him, and then she went to the police to pick up Mujae's belongings. That's when she found out that Mujae had a brother, but no one in the division knew. Cho-min asked what she wanted from him. She told him to pretend to be the leader of the division to destroy the Daejeon Union, and she would support him because she knew everything inside the division. She told him that he was amazing because he managed to move a person like Park Seok. He replied that he was just using the information he had. She told him all sorts of things to convince him, even told him that he was going to go to Science High School and didn't write the entrance exams because he was locked in a warehouse by the bullies who started bullying him when they saw him trying so hard, even after his parents died. And at that time, his brother was beating up the Union. One of them was her brother, who was punched by Mujae and has been in a coma ever since. She told him that if he rejects her, he should be prepared to get killed. Out of fear, Cho-min agreed to do what she said. She followed him to his house and told him that she has a test for him to see whether he was qualified to receive her support. He asked what the test was, and she replied that she wanted him to use the division to take down Cheonbyeok High School. At Cheonbyeok High School, Taek-sen was beating up the members of the Daejeon Union when he heard Bae Dong-yuk telling him that he took the bait. The other members were following behind him on their motorcycles. Dong-yuk told Taek-sen that they were planning to attack him when he was alone because they knew that Cheonbyeok was nothing without him. Taek-sen smirked and told them that they were the ones who took the bait. Cheonbyeok members emerged from the bushes and ran towards the Daejeons, and the Daejeons got beaten up. Meanwhile, Chomin was dreaming that the Imperial Division had found out that he was pretending to be their leader, so they surrounded him. He apologized and told them that he was the leader's brother. They told him that there was no reason for them to treat some trash nicely, that the leader didn't consider family. When they were about to start beating him up, Duck screamed behind him and he woke up, realizing that he was in class and it was all a dream. He then remembered what he and Mahari had discussed. He went to Cheonbyeok, determined to complete the mission. The students of Cheonbyeok saw him and wondered why a kid from another school would be wandering around Cheonbyeok. They asked him if he was sent by the Union or Division. Chomin denied it. Taeksin asked what the fuss was about, and they replied that they caught him sneaking around their school and that they were going to let him go after beating him up. Taeksin told them that it wasn't necessary because a punch would do. When he was about to punch him, Chomin yelled that a member of the division had infiltrated their territory. Taeksin asked him what he meant, and he replied that the division was aiming for Cheonbyeok, and they have a guy hidden in their school's restroom. Two of the students went to check, and they came out with the guy. Taeksin asked Chomin who he was, and he replied that he's just a guy who knows the division's every move and had come to offer them help. The other students were suspicious of Chomin. Taeksin told them that there was no reason for him to help them. Judging by the uniform, he's a Yongle student, which was recently eaten up by the division. They don't follow any group, so there must be a good reason to get their attention. They decided to use Chomin and figure out how he knew about it later. Dongyuk and his friend were playing pool when Taejun arrived. Dongyuk asked him what brought him there. He replied that he didn't come to clean up his mess. Then he asked Dongyuk what his billiard level was. Dongyuk replied that it was 150. Jung used the pool stick to hit Dongyuk's friend on the head. He sat down and then asked Dongyuk if he wanted to be recognized by swallowing Cheonbyeok High School. He replied that he does. Mahari went to Chomin's house to tell him that she knows that he used the division to gain their trust and get inside Cheonbyeok. The number 2 team that was in charge of Cheonbyeok Battlefront got knocked down as well. He replied that it was his part-time job. He didn't know that the gangsters were so sentimental. She told him to do something quickly, that he knows what will happen when it gets stolen. He went back to Cheonbyeok High School. The students told him to leave since Taeksin was not around. When he was leaving, he heard them talking about not being Taeksin's brother's babysitter. Meanwhile, Taeksin was at his father's grave, promising him to protect and take care of his brother. Meanwhile, Chomin was giving food to Taeksin's brother Taeyang. After he overheard the students talking, he figured that Taeksin's brother might not be a high school student. So the only 2 schools around were Hagding Elementary and Cheonbyeok Junior High. He went to the high school and asked around for Taeksin's brother. A student showed him Taeyang when he was about to leave school. Taeyang asked whether Taeksin had sent him to take him somewhere because it was his birthday. Chomin replied that it was a secret. Then he remembered Mahari's plan as he saw the text she had just sent him. Taeyang laughed, saying he just texted his brother. Chomin denied it and called him sloppy. Chomin stared at Taeyang and called him knave for following him without a doubt. Then he asked him what he would do if he were Taeksin's enemy. Taeyang told him that he only trusts Taeksin and that he never worries because even if he gets caught in something bad, Taeksin would save him. He also told him that Taeksin promised him on the day their father died that he would protect him, and when he started junior year, he was taken by bullies, and Taeksin drove his bike from Daejeon to Dachin without a thought to save him. Chomin got jealous because his own brother failed to do something like that for him, so he told Taeyang that they should go. As they were walking in the street, Chomin wanted to leave Taeyang at a place they agreed with the divisions. Taeyang then told him that he had followed him because he seemed like a good person. Meanwhile, Taeksin was told that a person went to Cheonbyeok Junior High School. The divisions jumped out of their hiding to catch Taeyang, but they found the street empty. Chomin had a change of heart and told Taeyang to run. As they were running, Chomin kept apologizing to him. Unfortunately, Taejun kicked Chomin and grabbed Taeyang. Taeksin and his group were running around looking for Taeyang. Taeksin received a message and a location, instructing him to go to the place alone if he wanted to see his baby brother alive. Taeyang was tied to a chair. Jun told Jung that his brother was not going to stand still. Jung slapped him and told him that the only thing that was not going to stand still was him. Meanwhile, Taeksin arrived at the location and met Dongyuk with his men. Dongyuk told him that he would love to take him where his little brother was right away, but they had to settle their personal grievances. Jun was exiting the building where he was holding Chomin and Taeyang captive. The guard asked him what they were going to do with Chomin since they said he didn't go to Cheonbyeok High. He replied that he was with Taeyang, so they must be close. The guard told him to lock him up as well, just in case. Chomin untied himself and went to check on Taeyang. He saw that he was crying. Taeyang told Chomin that he wished he would disappear so that he wouldn't be a burden to Taksin. Chomin told Taeyang not to worry. Then he looked out the window and saw that the entrance was heavily guarded, making it impossible to escape. He untied Taeyang and asked him what he was going to do. Chomin told him to listen carefully. Meanwhile, Taksin was getting beaten up by Dongyuk. He asked if Taeyang was safe. Dongyuk replied that he should look at him nicely, and he would tell him how he was doing. Taksin rose from the ground while telling them that the moment he lays his hands on Taeyang, as much as his finger, he was going to kill him. Dongyuk told his men to beat him up. The divisions arrived where Taeyang was being held captive. Chomin had come up with a plan to protect the Brotherhood and take over Cheonbyeok High at the same time. The divisions started fighting with the unions and they sent someone to look after Taeyang. Chomin asked Taeyang if he was ready. Chomin saw that they had started fighting and told Taeyang that they should get going. As they were about to leave the building, a member of the division walked in and asked them who Taeyang was. The guy urged them to hurry up and tell him who Taeyang was. Then one of the union members stumbled into the building, asking them where they were running off to. The division members saw the name tag on Taeyang's uniform. He was about to tell Taeyang to follow him when Chomin hit him on the head with a weapon and told Taeyang to run. Chomin held the guy to buy time for him to run away, so he ran off. After Taeyang ran off, the guy asked Chomin who he was, but he didn't reply. Meanwhile, Dongyuk had beaten Taksin, and he told him that he will never fight again because he will take his leg, but his brother would be safe. Taksin agreed to anything they wanted, but he asked them to let his brother go first. Dongyuk told one of his men to call the people who were holding Taeyang. He made the call, but they were not picking up. He told Dongyuk, and then they all heard Taeyang calling Taksin, telling him that he was okay. Dongyuk told his men to go and catch him. Taksin got up, caught the guys who were going after his brother, and slammed them on the floor. Then he turned to Dongyuk and glared at him. Chomin was getting beaten by the division guy. Then he let him go, telling him that he was lucky. If he wasn't after Taeyang, he would have died. Chomin realized that when the division knows that Taeyang is no longer here, his plan would be ruined. So he got up and asked the guy if he was running away. The guy turned back around and asked him what he just said. The guy got furious and lunged at Chomin. He dodged and tried to reach for the weapon that was on the floor. Before he could grab it, he was kicked in the butt. The guy told Chomin that real men only use fists and that he would show him a punch that's stronger than iron. Taeyang ran to Cheonbyeok High School and met one of his brother's friends. The guy told Taeyang that Taksin was looking for him. Taeyang told him to help Taksin. The division member kept punching Chomin while telling him that he thought he was going to do something, but he guessed he was just a weakling. Chomin glared at him while gritting his teeth because his words reminded him of how his brother had treated him. He started pushing the guy backwards until they reached a shelf he had tied him to and pushed him onto a nail, making it stab his butt. The guy got angry and started chasing Chomin. Chomin ran and hid behind an iron shelf. He tried to push it, but it was too heavy. So he used the weapon to create a gap in the floor, and then he pushed it forward, and it landed on the guy. Meanwhile, Mahari was watching the fight between the two groups, telling herself that she didn't think he could do it that way. Jigang asked Taksin what he thought he was doing as he saw him beating up Dongyuk. Jigang told Taksin that he looked like he had gone through a lot. Taksin asked if it was the division's turn. Jigang replied that he was not there to hit him but was thinking of making an offer. Taksin told him that if he was thinking of making him join the division because he had a hard time, then they were too late. He said he didn't need their strength or anything because the situation had been handled. Jigang left after telling him that he would regret it. Taksin's men arrived and asked him if he was okay. He replied and asked them if Taeyang was the one who told them. They helped him walk properly by letting him lean on them. When they turned around to leave, one of the members was about to hit him with a weapon. Taksin turned around and kicked him. Then he saw the way all his men were looking at him. He asked them what was going on. Then Jun appeared, holding Taeyang. Taeyang apologized to his brother, saying he didn't know they would betray him. Taksin asked his friends when they started thinking like that. They replied that ever since he started using them for his brother's safety, they also wanted to live a life full of pride and strength. Jun remembered how he told one of his men to slowly spread public opinion against Kim Taksin in order to incorporate Cheonbyeok High into the Union. The guys spread the news. Then he told Taeyang to watch while his brother gets beaten by his men. Taesan asked his men if they wanted to make a name for themselves when he saw that they had surrounded him. Jun told them to show him the power of Cheonbyeok. Then Taeyang bit Jun on the hand, causing him to let go due to the pain. Taeyang ran to his brother and told them that if they messed with Taesan, he was not going to let them go. The men ran towards Taesan and Taeyang. Jiging jumped in front of them and told Jun that he was mistaken when he told the others to show the power of Cheonbyeok, because Cheonbyeok was not those guys. Cheonbyeok referred to only one person, Kim Taesan. Jiging told them that it was ridiculous for men who wouldn't have been anything without Taesan to try and rebel against him. The men ran towards Jiging to attack him. He beat them up and told the other men to come and fight him, but they didn't move. Taeyang asked his brother why Jiging was helping them. He wondered if he was trying to make him feel indebted to them. Jun ordered his men to attack Jiging. Jiging told Taesan to run when they see the opportunity, that the leader doesn't want them to suffer. He said that he's a good person whose tale shouldn't end. The offer he made earlier was made personally because their leader was not a person to make them feel indebted. The brothers left. On the way home, Taeyang asked him if he was alright. He replied that he's fine and apologized to his brother for what he went through on his birthday. He replied that he's fine. Taesan told his brother that he had no idea that he was going to be betrayed and disqualified as a leader. He told him not to blame himself. Then he asked if he was going to join the division. He refused to join the divisions, saying they only help them because of their interests and that they are a group of gangsters who disgraced Asian. He wanted to be an honorable brother to him. Taeyang told his brother that only one person did not betray him. Then, Chomin appeared in front of them, holding the division jacket. Taeyang told his brother that he was the one who saved him earlier. Chomin told Taesan to join the divisions and that he will explain the reason. Meanwhile, Jiging beat up all the men, and Jong was running towards Taeyang to grab him again so that he could destroy Taesan because he refused to serve anyone. As he was about to grab Taeyang, Taesan jumped in front of them wearing the division's jacket. He told Jong that he's glad he could finally kill him with his own hands. Before the second encounter with Jong, Chomin told Taesan that Wang Muje had died in a car accident. Taesan replied that he hadn't heard of it before, so how could he be sure? Chomin told him that he had told him that he could see every division's move. Then he introduced himself and told Taesan that he was Wang Muje's younger brother, the head of the Imperial Division. He's using his brother's phone to control the division. Taesan asked him why he should join the division. He replied that it's for Taeyang. He's planning on getting rid of the dirty battleground in Daejeon to make it a place where there's no organization like the divisions or the unions. And to do that, he needs the divisions to destroy the union. But it's not easy to keep lying to the 3 battalion executives, so he wanted Taesan to be the 4th battalion leader. Back to Jung, Taesan told him that Taeyang has a scratch on his face and he's sure that it was from him. They started fighting. Jung managed to make Taesan lie on the ground. Chomin was surprised that Taesan was losing. Taeyang told him that Taesan was not going to lose. Taesan got back up, kicked Jong, and punched him in the face, sending him flying to the ground. Taeyang went to hug his brother while Chomin went to get his phone from Jung's pocket. Jong told Chomin that he had been tricking and betraying his members, saying he had been eavesdropping. Meanwhile, Yoon-tak was told that Muje was dead. A few days after the rebellions, Jiging introduced Taesan to the Imperial Divisions as the 4th Battalion leader. Jiging was surprised by the members' reactions. Park Seok told them that it was natural for them to act like that because Taesan was the one who had given them a hard time. And treating a man who was their enemy as their leader was enough to make one antagonistic. He also had some doubts about his decision. Then he asked Taesan why he joined the divisions because he didn't seem interested in the battleground. Taesan replied that the reason he joined the division was not to make a name or because he liked them, but because their leader wanted him to. So he wanted to check the end of the path as well. Park Seok told him that if he was thinking like their leader, then it's the Emperor's will to welcome him. The division members clapped their hands. The ones who rebelled against Taesan apologized to him, and their high school became the division's territory. Meanwhile, Mahari met with Chomin to talk about Cheonbyeok and the division and to get ready to destroy the Union. Chomin told Mahari that there must be a way to destroy the division after destroying the Union. She replied that they can get rid of the division the right way. When he asked with what way, she replied that it's a secret until they get to that situation. The Daejeon Union's leader told Yoon-tak that the leader of the divisions might be dead, but they were being controlled by someone else somehow because their movements had changed. He told him that the only person who could be leading them was a person who could benefit from it, like a nerd at Yongle High, who would want to go to school comfortably, because the attacks at Yongle High School were intended to clean up. Yoon-tak suggested that since the division had no leader, they should tell the unions about it and quickly destroy the division. He replied that he shouldn't tell anyone because they would start spreading rumors, and it would reach the divisions, so they might make Park Suk their leader. Then he told him to find the nerd and get rid of them. Chomin was at school and Gut kept calling him, but he was not responding. Gun then asked him what he does at night that makes him tired during the day, but he still didn't respond. After Taksin joined the division, he used the 4th Battalion to wage war against the Union, and he realized that Taksin was overwhelmingly powerful. They had succeeded in taking over 3 areas next to Cheonbyeok High School. Guk and Chomin were heading to the cafe. Guk asked Chomin what was for lunch, and he replied. Taksin told Chomin that they were short on people and that they would need an ace who would attract the attention of the heads. Chomin suggested that they could just choose one from Cheonbyeok High. Taksin replied that he didn't want to involve them further with the divisions. Chomin suggested he pick from the 1st and 2nd battalions. Bahari appeared and replied that they can't. Chomin asked why, and she replied that those ace guys joined out of Muji's admiration. What was moving them forward was loyalty to the heads who raised them in battle, and if approached with a concept like a department transfer, they would lose them quickly. Taksin agreed with her. Then she told them that Muji was serious about finding talented people. Taksin told them that he would try looking for them, and hoped that they would also find a good guy to fight alongside him. As Guk and Chomin were walking in the hallway, they bumped into Kang Seok-soo. Chomin stood in front of him without moving, thinking about whether he should recruit him. Then he decided against it. Guk tried calling him, and he snapped out of his trance, but Kang Seok-soo pushed him hard to the side, making him fall. He was about to start beating him for blocking his path. Suddenly, a new student stopped him and asked why he was making a scene when he had just gotten back from recovering. Seok-soo asked him who he was, and he replied that he was a new transfer student. The other students surrounded them, murmuring amongst themselves. Guk tried to tell Chomin that they should leave, but he told him to wait. Seok-soo started fighting with the new student, and he beat Seok-soo up. The students around were shocked, and just like that, Chomin had found the 4th Battalion's ace. Will this start a rivalry between the new student and Seok-soo, or is it the start of a strong friendship? Stay tuned for the next part of this manhwa. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment if you want to see another episode.